Hey, Kerfuffle fans, welcome to the latest episode of the Kerfuffle. Glad to have you back. And today we have an amazing fellow Pennsylvanian. That's right. You all know I'm from the Philly area, but she's from the western part of Philadelphia, but still a fellow Pennsylvania resident, Miss Jasz Joseph. Welcome to the show, Jazz.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And thanks for being on. Thanks for being on. How is the weather today up there in Pittsburgh?
Honestly, the weather has been like unbelievably delightful for what is this, late September, almost October. We're having no fall vibes over here. It's all 80 degrees, sunny, which I'm great with. People are upset that we're not having fall, but I'm like, you guys are gonna bite your tongue whenever winter comes and we're all freezing.
I remember when I lived in Pennsylvania, we would get the seasons change right around October, and I would get the worst allergies ever when the
Yeah.
leaves changed. I mean, it was so beautiful, but my allergies would just kill me. And I'd walk around and I'd see people with the same thing, sniffing, blowing their nose. That's one thing I miss the leaves, but I don't miss the allergies.
Yeah, I know. I do really love the like having four seasons. I think a lot about moving south and being in the sun. I love the warmth, but I think I would just miss like the energy of like the change every few months, you know?
So have you always lived in Pittsburgh?
I grew up here and then I left for about 8 years. I lived in Cleveland for a really long time, and then I lived in Houston, Texas for a little bit. And now I'm back.
Oh, okay. So what are you doing now that you're back in the Pittsburgh area?
Yeah, yeah. So I am running a consulting business. We specialize in HubSpot. So we help companies onboard to HubSpot. We train sales and marketing teams on how to get the most out of the tool, how to have full pipeline visibility all the way from your first lead that comes through all the way through closed revenue. So that's really what we specialize in. I've been working for myself for 5 years, and that business has ebbed and flowed quite a bit over the last 5 years. But that's really our sweet spot right now, and where we're specializing.
So were you a HubSpot employee at one time?
I was not a HubSpot employee, but I worked for big HubSpot agencies, so Diamond, Platinum partner agencies.
Okay, what is a diamond or platinum? Enlighten me because I have no idea.
Yeah, so HubSpot has a whole partner program. So all of these big agencies that sell HubSpot to their clients, that help their clients onboard to HubSpot, and then you essentially have tiers. And admittedly, the tiers are all based on how much HubSpot you sell for the most part, but a lot of consumers actually don't know that. And so they think that your tier means how like good you are at HubSpot. So they hear platinum, diamond partner, and they say, wow, that must be the best of the best. But I always advise my clients to kind of proceed with caution there, because all that means is that they sell a lot of HubSpot and they're getting a ton of commission from HubSpot. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best vendor to help you with all of your HubSpot needs.
I didn't realize HubSpot had an affiliate program like that.
Yeah,
Wow.
huge.
Because I know like Go High Level definitely does that. That's their big thing. We used to use Go High Level here, and we had some issues with Go High Level at our company. First of all, it was very hard to understand. It was very technical. We had to bring in a specialist to help us. But the other thing was uh we lost our phone number through it. It was a
Mm.
nightmare. And the big
Oh.
thing they kept pushing on us was, and I believe me, guys, the fans out there, I'm not running down Go High Level. If you want to use Go High Level, feel free. I'm just talking about my personal experience. But we wound up having to get rid of it just because it became too much of a hassle, and they were really just pushing the affiliate program more than they were pushing
Mhm.
the actual bells and whistles of the CRM that we were using.
Yeah, yeah. You find that a lot with all businesses, right? It's like you have to strike that balance between growing your business and like getting more customers, but also being good to the customers that you already have and servicing them and helping them grow. And I think a lot of us struggle with like, how do you find that balance, especially not go high level, but for businesses like mine, where it's small, right? Like maybe you only have a few employees and you're trying to split your time between working in the business, working on the business. I think,
So
yeah,
we
it's hard.
we never really played with HubSpot. What makes HubSpot a little bit different than, say, the other CRMs? I know it's one of the big ones because you see it all over
Mhm.
the place. It's right up there with what's the big one there? Everybody go.
Salesforce.
Salesforce. It's like
Yeah.
Salesforce, HubSpot. These are the two you see everywhere. But what makes it a little bit different?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's cool about HubSpot is it's more than just a CRM. It really is a one-stop shop. So it has marketing tools. So all of your marketing automation, your email, your social media, everything like that can live inside HubSpot. It, of course, has the CRM and the sales tools. And then it also has content tools. You can host your website on HubSpot. It has customer service tools. So you can have tickets and you can have support systems. So really, it's a one-stop shop, which is why so many of my clients really like it, especially when we start talking about bigger businesses that have a full marketing team, a full sales team, a full customer service team. Instead of having all of that being super segmented in different systems and trying to pull data from all different places, a leadership team can really easily go in and see, okay, everything's in one system. What's happening with marketing? What's happening with sales? What's happening with service? What does that full customer life cycle look like?
So it's more for, say, a medium to a larger size business than, say, a company that has 3 or 4 people in it.
Yeah, I would say so. Generally speaking, it's definitely on the pricier side when we're comparing it to something like Go High Level. But I will say that it really grows with your business. So when I have clients come to me that are on the smaller side, they only have a few employees, but they have really big growth goals. Oftentimes, I'll still onboard them to HubSpot and just one of the starter, smaller tiers of HubSpot, because so often I see companies onboarding to a CRM that's made for small businesses. And then as they grow out of that CRM, and then it just takes so much time and energy to onboard to a whole new tool and pull all of your data out of this tool and put it in the new tool. So, to answer your question, yes, it is for medium to large businesses, but I always tell my smaller businesses if you see yourself getting to that place in 5, 10 years, it might be worth onboarding to the starter tools now, getting to know them so that you can kind of seamlessly have this tool that grows with you.
What's some of the cool bells and whistles that it has? Like some of the intricate
Yeah.
stuff that the most people don't really know about?
Yeah, great question. So many things. I think one of the big wins for my clients that we onboard them to a lot are sales sequences. And so sales sequences are a little different than what you would normally think of. It's not like a drip campaign, like an email nurture sequence, because it comes directly from the sales rep's inbox. So this isn't like a big marketing email with the unsubscribe link at the bottom. It feels like a one-to-one email. It is a one-to-one email. Um, and we will create really targeted sequences for different verticals, for different job titles, whatever makes sense for that client. And then we'll use those to essentially work in the background for my client sales teams. So a lot of my clients will come to me and they'll be like, Jazz, our sales team is like working, 50 plus hours a week. We feel like we probably need to hire a new salesperson because we need more revenue, but we don't really want to hire a new salesperson because that's even more money. Like, what do we do? And a lot of times when I hear that complaint, the first thing I'll say is we need to start building out sequences because your sales reps should be doing things that only humans can do, which is prospecting, which is actually getting on the phone and doing and selling, right? All of that like background nurturing and remembering to reach out and hey, we talked last week. I wanted to touch base again. All of that should be automated. In the year 2025, sales reps should not be doing all of that manual. Hey, let me send an email here, follow up here. All of that should be automated inside of your CRM.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never even thought about that. Even just the common, like a common email should be something should be automated. Now, how about the marketing aspect of it? That's interesting. We get a lot of questions here on the show about marketing, and I try to tell people marketing and sales are different. They're two different beasts,
Mhm.
even though they're related. They are two different beasts. Well, let's talk about the marketing a little bit. You said that there's a system inside the HubSpot that allows people to set up marketing campaigns and stuff like that. Can
Yeah.
you explain that a little bit?
Absolutely. So Before I dive into that, I will say, kind of doubling down on what I shared before about how it's a one-stop shop tool, it's really nice from a marketing perspective to have that closed loop with sales. I think so often we as business owners are doing a bunch of quote unquote marketing, but you don't really know what's working, right? Like you're posting on social media, maybe you're sending emails, maybe you're networking, you're doing all these things, but you're like, what is truly driving revenue? And I find a lot of companies they don't have that answer for me. They're like, we're doing all of these marketing things and we know that they're getting eyeballs on our website. And we also know that we're closing some business, but there's a gap there. We don't know exactly what initiatives are driving that. And so that's why I really love using HubSpot, is because you have all of that tracking from a marketing perspective all the way through to close revenue to say, okay, we just closed a $5,000 deal. That lead first found us via LinkedIn. Like you can easily just map those things. So then I'm able to come in and be really strategic and say, okay, you made $20,000 from LinkedIn this quarter and you only made 5,000 from networking. So why are you spending every week going to all of these networking events when we can just double down
Ah.
on LinkedIn, right? Like we can start having really strategic conversations like that, which can be really helpful and really eye-opening.
Do you find that marketing itself, again, putting sales on the shelf, we're just talking strictly marketing here. Do you
Mhm.
find that marketing itself is a complicated task, a lot of trial and error? People can put out video ads or just regular clip art ads or what have you, but they're not getting any traffic at all. And it's something that you help them with that campaign as well?
Yeah, 100%. It's very trial and error to your point. And then I think a lot of marketing teams lack the sophistication and the knowledge to be able to tie their results directly back to revenue. I think marketers often are tracking KPIs, key performance indicators like website visits or views or impressions. And while those are helpful, right? A marketing team will do a presentation and say, my ad got 20,000 views, which resulted in, 5,000 website visits. At the end of the day, if I'm a CEO, I'm going, why do I care? Right? Like,
Right.
did this bring me dollars or did this not bring me dollars? And so I think of myself as a very revenue centric marketer, because I've spent my whole career kind of working in this crux between sales and marketing and working with these tools that allow for that visibility. But I think that's not the norm. And so,
Right.
yeah, a lot of marketing teams are doing that trial and error, but then they're not tracking their metrics all the way through to revenue. They're only tracking to those marketing metrics, which only get you so far, right? I'm not saying that views and impressions are a bad thing. That's, of course, an important piece of the puzzle, but it's not telling the full story.
Right. Yeah, it can be anybody. It can be a 13-year-old kid that just happened to stumble upon your commercial and
Right.
thumbs up it because they thought it was cool, and that's not going to
Yeah.
generate into a sale.
Yep, exactly.
So, what are some success stories then that you've had with helping build that aspect of it?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. We had a client who came to us last year, kind of similar story to what I was talking about. They had a robust sales team. Their sales team was working a ton and they just weren't hitting the revenue numbers that they wanted to be hitting. And at the same time, they had this CRM that was full of contacts that just hadn't been touched in a while. So they were contacts who maybe went through the sales cycle, they got a proposal, and then they didn't sign off, right? And those contacts just kind of like sit in the CRM for months, sometimes years, and they never get touched again because we say, oh, well, we tried to sell to them and it didn't work. But the truth of the matter is, those are still good contacts that we can continue nurturing, we can continue reaching out to. So we were able to take their existing database of all of these contacts that were sitting there that they hadn't been touched in a long time, but they weren't necessarily bad contacts. It was just that their sales team was spending so much time working these really hot, really warm, active deals that they didn't have time to touch these more like cold, dormant ones. And so we enrolled them into sequences and we got really, really, really targeted with those sequences. This client specifically, they were a woman-owned business. So they had their minority-owned business certificate, which is really important for a lot of companies who have supplier diversity goals. And so we were specifically targeting some of those supplier diversity and procurement job titles. And we just started doing these outreach campaigns on behalf of the sales team, but it all happened in the background. The sales team didn't actually have to touch them, to just say, hey, let me introduce myself. We're a minority owned business. Here's what we do. We would love to be added to your preferred vendor list. And over the course of last year, 2024, they generated an extra $1 million in revenue just from those sequences alone.
Wow. And was that mainly emails? Like an
Yeah,
email campaign?
it
Newsletter
was.
campaign?
No, it was one-to-one emails specifically from the sales team. So they were automated, but they looked and they felt like one-to-one emails. So it was really like a sales rep reaching out directly to you to say, hey, I want to introduce myself. Here's who we are. Here's what we do. And believe it or not, those emails actually ended up getting a decent amount of replies, a decent amount of meeting bookings. And then some of them, they have a need right away. And some of them are like, thank you so much. We're going to add you to our preferred vendor list. If a need comes up down the road, maybe a few months later, we check in again. But that's really the power of having these automated sequences working for you, is you don't have to remember, oh, I talked to this person 3 months ago and they said they liked me, but they weren't ready. So now I have to reach out to them again. Like, all of that just happens in the background. And the only thing you need to do is reply to those emails when people actually are coming in saying, hey, I want to talk to you.
So it's also got to be like a situational thing where you remind the individual, whatever their job may be, a salesperson, a marketing person, customer service, to make sure to put that information into the CRM, because if they don't have that information in the CRM, that follow-up's never going to happen. So you have to,
Exactly.
kind of train people to do that.
Exactly. Yes, you're spot on. So that's a really, really important piece of the puzzle when we're onboarding teams to HubSpot, is getting that full company buy-in, right? It's like the sales reps need to do it, but also their boss needs to tell them to do it because leadership wants visibility into what's happening. And yeah, there's a lot of kind of personalities at play there. And it is so important to be tracking everything in that tool to make the salespeople's lives easier. But then also, we all know that like right now, we are in a job market that has so much churn, right? People are not staying in these positions for 10, 20 years like they used to. People are leaving constantly. And so I don't want all of those leads that rep was working to just die when they leave the company. I want to have all of that visibility and understanding into what conversations were they having, who were they talking to, so that somebody can pick up right where they left off and continue on with that.
Do you find that when you go into a company that there is a lot of pushback, especially like an older school company that has done everything by pencil and paper, so to say,
Mhm.
and they don't want to adapt to a new systems and process?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. Still see so many companies that are using a spreadsheet as their CRM, right? They're not even using a tool like we're talking about. Everything is in a spreadsheet. And yeah, it really takes full company buy-in, which of course starts at the top, but then trickles its way down. And it's hard, it's not, it's, I like to say I make it as easy as possible for these reps. So we connect your email. So anybody that you're emailing automatically flows into HubSpot. We connect your calendar. So anybody that you're having meetings with is automatically flowing in. But of course, there is some manual work that the system can't pick up on, that you need to write in notes and you need to, tell it things that we just wouldn't otherwise know. So it's getting better. And then, of course, now there's all of these AI tools that are making it just more and more seamless, right? You invite an AI note taker into your meeting, and then all of a sudden, all of your notes are transcribed into the CRM, and everybody could see exactly what you talked about. So we're getting to a place where things are almost fully automated, but there is still, of course, manual work to be done.
Yeah, that was my next question is you see this advent of AI starting to come in, and where are you seeing that AI is filling the gaps the most in your line of work?
Yeah. So many places. I just attended Inbound, which is the big HubSpot conference a few weeks ago, and it's just like AI everything, everywhere, all the time. But I would say the two biggest places that are specifically moving the needle for my clients is one, we use AI a lot to fill in the blanks with our contact records. So to give you an example, somebody comes in, they convert through the website, right? They say, "Hey, I'm interested in your services." But we don't really know anything about them. We don't know what industry their company's in. We don't know how big their company is from a revenue or an employee standpoint. And so we're not sure if they would even be a good fit, right? Lots of my clients, like I said, they're mid to large size businesses. So they're only interested in working with other mid to large size businesses. They don't want a little guy like me that can't afford their services. And so we're able to use AI tools to pull information from the internet on their company and populate some of those key records that help us make a really informed decision about how do we work this lead or which rep do we send this lead to. So we can say, here's what industry they're in, here's how many employees they have, here was their revenue last year. We can populate a lot of that information to make sure that they're going to the right place.
Yeah, I saw something like that. I forget the name of the system, so you have to bear with me. But one that attaches itself to LinkedIn, where
Oh, neat.
if you type in the top corner, let's say PepsiCo, I'll just make up a
Mhm.
company, and you want to work with the facilities department. Maybe you're selling toilet paper or something like that. It'll go through LinkedIn and find all the facilities managers off of LinkedIn in PepsiCo. And a lot of times, what people don't realize is LinkedIn also has personal information. So, what it'll do is it'll get you their email address for the company, but also give you email address for their personal company phone and cell phone. And it'll also tell you like a little bit about them. And you can pre populate this into a sheet that then goes into your CRM system. It's actually kind of like a really cool thing. I stumbled upon it and I was showing one of my cohorts in another business this, and now they use it exclusively.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. There's so many databases popping up like that. Like Zoom Info is one that comes to mind. Apollo is another one. So yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. Like for these businesses, it can be so helpful, but you have to utilize it in the right way. Because I also think that's why, we all wake up in the morning with 100 emails in our inbox saying, "Hey, Jazz, I want to sell you something," because all of our information is just out there. So I really challenge my clients to say, how can we be really strategic and targeted with these campaigns to not just be, sending the same thing to everybody? Hey, I want to talk to you. But really, I feel like I keep honing in on what are these people's job titles? What are their industries? What are their pain points? And how can we come in from a really helpful informational lens and be that partner to them versus jumping in their inbox and saying, "Hey, I want to sell you something."
What do you find is the most difficult way to sell your services? Like when you're trying to get somebody to work with you or something, what do you find is the most difficult thing?
For my business
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah, for your business specifically.
yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of background. So whenever I started my business 5 years ago, we were much more in like the full service digital marketing space. So we used HubSpot for like our own business, but servicing our clients, we were doing a ton of content creation, blog, social media, email marketing, things of that nature. And we've since pivoted, which happy to chat about the reason behind that pivot. But whenever we were doing full service marketing, we were selling a lot of retainers, which was really beneficial for me as a business owner because that gives you so much visibility into, what your next 3, 6 months look like from a revenue standpoint. Where now that we're doing the HubSpot stuff, and I question I think it's a mixture of A, the HubSpot stuff, and B, just our market right now and the fact that people are much more hesitant to spend money than maybe they were 5 years ago. But we really are struggling with selling retainers and we're selling a lot more project-based work. So people will say, come in, set up my HubSpot, onboard my team, and then we'll talk after that. So for me as a business owner, I'm doing a lot more sales work than I ever was in the past because we used to sell one client and we would have them for months, years just on retainer. And now we're selling a lot of projects. And now it's like, okay, now sell either the next project to that company or find a new company to sell a project to. So that's something that I've been kind of grappling with over the last year.
Now you said you had a pivot. What was the
Mhm.
pivot for?
Yeah. So it was kind of end of 2024, I would say around that time period. I admittedly just kind of saw the writing on the wall with traditional digital marketing. Organic reach is at an all-time low. And so these social posts that we used to put out on behalf of my clients that used to get all of these views and likes and comments and shares, they just weren't getting that anymore, right? Social media has deeply become a pay to play situation. And then with the rise of AI, a lot of the content creation that we're doing has also gone by the wayside. Clients used to hire us to write ebooks and white papers and website copy and blog posts and all of these things that now they're just employing ChatGPT and Claude to write for them. And so I really saw the writing on the wall from that perspective. And I was like, we're not seeing these huge wins for our clients that we used to see. A lot of our services are admittedly becoming extinct. So, how can we pivot? And like I said, I always worked for these big HubSpot partner agencies, and HubSpot work always kind of fell into my lap. People knew me as like, oh, you need help with HubSpot? Go talk to Jazz. She knows HubSpot, but I never really went to market as like we are the HubSpot experts. And so that was the big pivot that I did late last year, early this year, was to start positioning ourselves as a HubSpot agency. And yeah, it's been good. Like with any pivot, it takes some time and you have to refresh all of your messaging and start talking to different people, and it's been a journey. But I'm really happy we did it because we're seeing like bigger wins. We're working with the right people. I just admittedly feel better about the work that we're doing. And so it's been good.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot about organic reach has been dying. What was I watching the other day? It was something about YouTube about how the organic reach, unless you're a pay to play YouTuber, which most people, okay, I'm going to go on a tangent here. This is Sean's tangent, but
Yeah.
most people don't realize that YouTube is not the YouTube of 2015 or 2010 or even 2018 anymore. It's now more of a pay to play type of thing where if you have big financial backing, you can run ads, you can promote your videos. It's not all about monetization anymore. It's more about sponsorships because a lot of these people turn their stuff into big shows. And what I saw this thing that said that the organic reach for all these people that want to become YouTubers, the market is just flooded with people that don't have any big money backing, and they're all trying to fight for attention, and most people are giving up.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I didn't know that, but it makes a lot of sense, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're going to a lot of alternative platforms like Rumble or
Mm.
Odyssey, or they're trying to focus in on the TikTok stuff or what have you. But
Yeah.
they're saying YouTube is just oversaturated, over competitive, and organic reach is not what it was before. And the proof is in the pudding, where you'll go into your YouTube homepage, and you'll see a video from 3 years ago from somebody you've never even subscribed to before or seen their videos before, because people are desperately trying to promote their videos for more organic reach because the algorithm isn't pushing like it pushes the people with money.
Yeah. Wow. I know our whole landscape is shifting at like such a rapid pace. And I think it's easier to create content than it ever has been before, which means that there's just so much more content out there. And so the market is so saturated. And I think content creators have to just work so much harder and pay so much more money to stand out versus it used to be, I think, a lot easier to get those big numbers and followers and views and all the things on these platforms.
So do you find that in your industry, with the advent of AI, that there'll be potentially less jobs programming these CRM systems, and not just programming, but working the CRM systems as time goes by, like 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now versus today?
Yeah. I don't know. I wish I had a magic ball to tell me these things, and it's hard to say. I don't know that there will be less jobs. I think the jobs will look very different. So, like I said, I think traditional digital marketing as we know it, of all of these people that create content and create graphics for social and things like that, I think that's really going to fall by the wayside. And then I think all of these AI programmers and people who can use AI and train other people on I think that's going to skyrocket. I have a friend right now who she's hosting a lot of different sprints to teach coaches and consultants how to build their own AI tools, right? So we hear coaches and consultants all the time telling their clients or just telling the general public, you can't just ask ChatGPT all of these questions that you used to ask me because ChatGPT doesn't know everything in the way that I have. They haven't studied, it doesn't have the life experience. But we all know that people are going to continue to ask ChatGPT all these questions. So her counter argument is, how can you build your own AI tools and train them with your knowledge and your lived experience so that instead of people just using generic AI, they can use your AI that you've trained and you've built. And so I think there's going to be a lot more of that comes out. I think every quote unquote expert in their field is probably going to start to have their own AI tool that they share with their clients or their followers or whoever. And maybe you pay to use their AI tool. But I think that's going to be a much bigger thing in the future.
Now, what's one of the, the when you told us about your success stories, but what is one of the ones? What's a story of that you weren't so successful? Something that didn't really pan out the way that it was supposed to be with the business.
Yeah, great question. So back whenever I was running again more of like a full service digital marketing agency, I used to host this monthly event for agency owners, and it was like a roundtable mastermind. It was free and it was really successful. We started having all of these people come, and I said to myself, why don't I turn this into its own business, right? I can start a community and these people can come together and they can network and they'll pay a monthly fee. So I started a networking group. It was called Let's Work Network. And I owned it for 2 years before I eventually had to shut it down. And it never made a dime. It broke even by the end. And I don't know. I look back on that and it was really interesting because we had a very high retention rate, but we really struggled with recruiting. And I think that's why I held on to it for so long because the members inside loved it so much. And I felt like, okay, I have to keep servicing them. I have to keep having these events for them and these opportunities for them. But then it admittedly started to just be like a time and energy and a financial leak for me because it wasn't making any money. And I was spending all this time servicing these members that were paying $40 a month for the service. And I had this other consulting business that I kept, kind of splitting my time between that was actually making real money. And so I really struggled for a long time with like, what do I do with this? I tried so many different avenues to grow it and to get more members and to change things up and give people free previews and free trials. And admittedly, after 2 years, I just had to throw in the towel and say, I don't think this is right for me. I don't think there's a market for it right now. I think I was doing it at a time when everybody was just so Zoom fatigued and was like, the last thing I want to do is another Zoom networking call. I think I missed the boat on that. And so yeah, that was one of my businesses.
So if somebody's interested in connecting with you or your businesses, where are some places that they can go to find you, reach out to you, ask questions, maybe,
Yeah.
get some information from you?
Absolutely. So the best place to reach out to me directly is LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn, Jaszz Joseph. Yep, it's coming up on the screen here. And yeah, please reach out to me. Tell me that you heard me on the podcast, and I would love to connect. I would love to do a virtual coffee chat if you're in Pittsburgh, a real coffee chat. And my website is jazzrae.com. So feel free to check that out too. We have some information about our HubSpot services, and you can sign up for our emails. We do a weekly email with HubSpot information. So yeah, I would love to connect.
So when you're not working, Jazz, what do you
Mhm.
do for fun?
Well, my favorite thing in the world is traveling. And so I do a ton of traveling. One of my motivations with starting my own business was to be able to have that flexibility and live. I don't fully live the digital nomad life, but I kind of pretend to be a digital nomad sometimes. I have a home, and I have a dog that lives in my home with me. But yeah, I try to travel as many times as I can every year, both internationally and domestically. And I often take my work with me, which is a really fun, cool thing that I'm able to do. And yeah, so I love traveling. I'm a big foodie. I love cooking. I love trying new restaurants. And I think, food and travel, they go hand in hand. So it's a match made in heaven.
So how many countries have you been to?
That is a great question. I don't know. I should have that number. I would say in the 20s,
Wow.
probably. Yeah, yeah.
What's
Somewhere
your
somewhere like that.
what's your favorite? Which one did you like the
Oh,
most?
that's such a hard question. It's like choosing between your children, right? Everywhere you go has different vibes, and I crave different things at different times. I will say earlier this year I went to Mexico City and I just absolutely fell in love. That is one of the places where I was like, I could so see myself living here. If other business owners are listening, it's so co-working friendly. Like every block has like four of just the cutest coffee shops you've ever seen, with so many people on their laptops, both inside and outside. The weather is so perfect, just working and, networking and chit chatting with each other. And so that was a really cool vibe. And, I love energies like that where people are kind of coming together and it feels very community oriented. I, of course, love Europe. Big fan of Italy. I have family in Italy, and so we go every so often to see them. And it's just, the way that they live life is just so elite and so top notch. Just to have that, again, that focus around food and community and gathering around this table for lunch and for dinner, and the fact that so many of them just take like a whole month off in the summer and go to the beach and enjoy their life. I think we can learn so much from cultures like that just slow down and just really enjoy life, and they don't wait till retirement like we Americans do. They really like take their time while they have it.
I'll tell you what, I was in Italy a few months back.
Mhm.
And shout out to my New York Italian friends or American Italian friends. No, you guys make some great food, but I'll tell you, nothing beats real Italian food.
I know. It's so fresh. Like I think whenever you have Italian food in the US, it's amazing, but it's heavy, right? You're like feeling it after,
Yeah.
where Italian food over there, yeah, it's so light and it's so fresh, and like yeah, I'm like I could eat this and then go on a mile long walk and it's no big deal.
I'll tell you, I had some pasta over there. First of all, their pasta's phenomenal. It's almost always homemade. You don't really get, I mean, I'm sure that there's at some of the restaurants they use box pasta like they do, in the United States. But the pasta that I had at smaller restaurants was amazing. And one of the things I noticed is at a couple places, they cook the pasta, and a lot of people use like tuna fish oil or tuna fish water or whatever for the flavor, and all the noodles were kind of borderline al dente, but it was like
Mm.
delicious. It wasn't like, a crunchy noodle I got over here from Kraft where I break my tooth trying to eat it, you know?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's like you're not eating mushy pasta. It's like it feels more like I can't explain it. It feels more like a meal when you're like actually chewing it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Now, in your opinion, 20 some countries you've been to, which one has the best desserts? Desserts.
Ooh, best desserts. That is a fantastic question. My immediate gut reaction is to tell you France. The French bakeries, they knock it out of the park. I'm reading a book right now that is set in Paris, and she like talks in the book, she talks about how she like goes to the bakery every morning and she gets a pastry, and I'm like on the verge of buying a plane ticket. I'm like, I need it right now. Yeah, they knock it out of the park when it comes to baked goods.
Oh, I mean, like I'm a dessert junkie, so I
Mm.
love pastries, I love cookies. One of the things I really admire about going to Europe is just the sidewalk life. I'll call it that, where you walk out and there's like a little table, maybe you can have, and their coffee's not like here where we get like a gallon of coffee. In Europe, they give you a little cup of coffee, you get like a Danish or something like that, or a scone or something, and you can sit out there and you can just watch people walk up and down the street, and everybody does it and everybody's cool, and they smoke cigarettes when they're sitting next to you, which they don't do in the United States. I'm sitting there, guys are smoking cigarettes. It's just the coolest atmosphere to
It
check
really
out.
is. I know. And I think so much of that centers around the way that they treat their wait staff. So here in the US, we pay our wait staff less than minimum wage and they're so reliant on tips. And so there's this culture of I have to turn as many tables as possible. Where over there, it's a completely different pay structure. So it allows for customers to sit and relax and enjoy. And you don't feel like, oh no, if I spend an hour sitting at this table, I'm screwing over my waiter and he's not going to make as much money today. And I think it's so interesting, especially, from a business perspective, when you start to think about the systems that are in place that allow for that customer experience.
Yeah, so what's the most exotic country you've been to?
Oh, so I feel like I haven't been to that many crazy exotic places. Like they're all next on my list. I want to do a lot more South America travel. I would love to potentially do like some Africa and some Asia. Like I said, I take my work with me a lot when I go. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can realistically do a trip to like Asia and deal with the time zones and still like be able to get on the phone with my clients. And that's like something that I haven't cracked the code on yet. So it's really, I love going to Europe because of the time zone. Like I can hang out all day and explore and then get on my laptop like afternoon,
Yeah.
work a few hours, be like good with my Eastern time clients or my US time zone clients. And then Europeans eat so late. So it's normal to be going and having dinner at 8, 9, 10 p.m., even on a weeknight. And so I can get off my laptop and then like still have an evening. So I just to me, that's like perfection, like work life balance. And then, of course, like I said, Mexico, and I was also in Costa Rica earlier this year. They're the same time zone as us. So that makes it really easy. But I need to crack the code on how I'm going to make work life balance happen and be able to go to Asia and Africa and places like that.
I'll tell you what, we've traveled around the world to a bunch of different places, and one of my
Mhm.
favorite places, and I know that this is not very popular right now, but because of politics, but one of my favorite places to visit and that I could actually see myself living in would be London.
Wow. Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
I am
Why
not
is
a
that?
drinker. I am not a drinker. I do not drink. It's not because I ever had a drinking problem. It's just a habit I just don't enjoy doing. But when you go to London, one of the things that you see is the pub culture. All
Hmm.
these friends that hang out and have a drink. Now, sure, you have that in the United States, but the problem is, for the most part, I mean, you're a Pennsylvania person. You know how it is. Unless you're downtown and having a drink and you're able to catch an Uber or walk, you got to drive anywhere in the United States. And I'm a big proponent of people not getting DUIs. I lost an uncle to DUI, so I don't want to see that. But over in London, they have this pub culture, and everybody lives in the city, so you can either take the tube, or you can take the public transportation bus, or get an Uber. And these groups of people just hanging out, even in the middle of the street with the pub, watching soccer. Which, okay, I'm a football fan. I know you're probably a Steelers fan. I'm an Eagles fan, but I would, but soccer is not my game. But just the camaraderie of it, and it seemed like it was so much easier to make friends. And there's just so much to do, so much history, so much to see.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think London, Europe as a whole, like they have that community vibe figured out. Like we were saying with the sidewalks and being able to sit and have a coffee and have a cigarette and chat with your neighbors. We just don't do that. I think, you call a friend in the US and you say, "Hey, do you want to hang out?" And they go, "Yeah, I'm free, not next week, but the following week. Let's put something on the calendar." There's not this just step outside your house and see your neighbors and enjoy life and have a coffee and have a drink. And I think we're really lacking in that department.
Now, which was your least favorite country visit? Because I can throw out about two or three, but what's your least favorite?
You're gonna be upset with me, but I didn't love London. I didn't
Okay.
love England. I also really did not love Paris. I thought Paris was very overrated. I don't know. Neither of those did it for me. Yeah, yeah, neither of those hit for me.
I'll tell you what, I've heard that about Paris, and actually, you're
Mhm,
not the first person to tell me about London like that. I really just liked London, but I've never been to Paris. The places that really scared me was when I went to Roatan, and we were walking around, and there was a guy with an AK-47 at the gas station, and I asked the tour guide, "Why does this guy have an AK-47?" Now, I'm an army guy. I'm not dumb.
mhm,
I've seen some stuff, and he says, "Oh, he's just there for security." I'm like, "Look, you're not walking around a gas station with an AK-47 for security. Something's not right. Is it, you're trying to protect the tourist, or make sure that there's not
mhm,
armed robbery." So I didn't really like that too much. It kind of messed with my mind. And the other place I didn't really enjoy much was Cozumel. I felt it was
mm,
too touristy.
mhm,
I felt, I went to go on the beach at Cozumel, and there was trash floating in the water. You couldn't swim. So
yeah.
those are my unfavorite ones. But every place I've been to Europe, especially Rome, absolutely loved Rome.
Mhm. I love Rome. It's beautiful. I know. I felt similarly in San Jose. I was there for just one day because we flew out. Costa Rica is a beautiful country. There's so much to do there in terms of beach and mountains. And so I was there for a few weeks and loved it. But we flew out of San Jose and I was like, okay, we'll just be there for one day. And yeah, I felt so unsafe in that city, and it was crazy. We did a food tour, like a food walking tour, and the tour guide actually said to my friend, "Hey, you have to take your chain off." And he said to me, "Take your neck or take your earrings off," because he was like, "People will come up to you and like grab it off of you." And he was like, "If you don't do it, the police are going to come up to me and fine me because it's my job as a tour guide to keep you safe. And so, like, can you please like take off all of your jewelry?" Which I was like, "That's crazy. Like, we're walking
Wow.
around town on a food tour and like we have," but I felt it immediately. As soon as I stepped foot in that city, I was like, "I don't feel safe. This doesn't feel like a good energy." And then that confirmed it for me. And I was like, "Oh, I'm glad we're here for only 24 hours and we didn't extend our stay here."
What's the food like in Costa Rica?
It was good. It's a lot of beans and rice. I ate beans and rice every meal, especially breakfast. Yeah, every day, every meal, just a different form of beans and rice, but it was delicious. I love beans and rice.
And is there a big difference between Mexican food in the United States versus Mexican food in Mexico?
Um, I would say yes, especially as a Pittsburgher. So whenever I was living in Texas, I experienced so much Mexican food that I like didn't even know existed. But if you're in the north, it's like yeah, it's so different. Like tacos, quesadillas, yeah, very, very different. The thing about Mexico and honestly most countries outside of the US is again, everything is just so fresh. And Like there's all of these vendors on the street that you can get tacos and you can get drinks and things from and fruit, and everything is just so like fresh, and like they make it right there in front of you, and it's so affordable too, right? It's like our version of fast food, but just way better for you. Like our fast food is horrible, and theirs is like, some old lady on the street that's like going to cook chicken in front of you and put it on a homemade tortilla, and it's going to be like the best taco you've ever had.
So where do we see you going next? Where's your next trip lined up
Ugh,
for?
it's a great question. I'm going to Cuba in
Oh,
January.
okay.
Yeah, which I'm really excited about. And I'm really, really trying to squeeze in Guatemala before then. I'm figuring it out. I'm trying to make it happen. It's happening soon. I don't know if it's going to happen before January, but it's happening soon.
So if you had any advice for somebody that's going to lead the digital nomad life, like you kind of do, what would be
Mhm.
some of the advice that you would give somebody that's starting out trying to figure out if they're going to do that or not?
Yeah, so I really recommend, if you don't feel comfortable traveling on your own, which I struggled with, I still don't love it. I'll do a few days here and there by myself, but it's hard because a lot of my friends don't have the schedule that I do. I've done a variety of different things. So one is staying in, they have like hostels, but they also have all of these hostels now that are also like co-working spaces. So you can have your own room if you're not into sharing a room. You can kind of have your own hotel room, but they have these big open areas where other people are working, and oftentimes they have a bar and a restaurant on site. So it allows you to meet people, and they have events and, tours and things like that. So I really recommend that. I also really recommend retreats. There's lots of retreats for business owners or just retreats in general, right? Retreats don't necessarily, I think a lot of times it has a wellness connotation. You think, oh, I'm going to go and meditate and do yoga. And yes, a lot of times it's that, but there's retreats for everything now. So that's another really cool way to just go and meet people. And oftentimes I'll do that for the first week of my trip and then meet some people, and we'll travel together for more parts of the trip, or I'll have a friend meet me for the second half. And so that really was my biggest stumbling block, was less about how to figure it all out, but more about how to like find my people as I was traveling, and not just be like, okay, I'm in this foreign country. I don't speak the language and I don't know anybody. What do I do? So those have really helped me.
And there's obviously groups that people can join on like
Mhm.
Discord or Facebook or something like that to hook up
Yeah.
with other people to try to get information. Is that where you learned a lot of it from?
Yeah, somewhat, I would say. I'm in a lot of groups. I would say, yeah, kind of just a variety of things. Some are Facebook, but some are more so like just membership groups for other women in business, and like house swapping is another big one if you are into that. Is I've done like some house sitting for people in other countries. Trusted House Sitters is a great app if you're interested in doing that. So yeah, there's so many ways to travel and to meet people and to make it affordable.
Cool. So if you could rewind the clock to a younger Jazz and give her one piece of advice about where you've come in life. You've done a lot of successful things. You have a successful business. You've traveled the world, sometimes on your own, sometimes with a friend. You've, learned about AI, and you've done all sorts of incredible things in your life. What would be that one piece of advice that you give a younger Jazz?
Hmm. It's a great question. I feel like it is centered around like just go for it. I think so often we get stuck in our own head, and it's really easy to tell yourself all the reasons something won't work out, right? Like, oh, it's so scary to start this business. It's so scary to go to this country by myself, all of these things. And I think so much of it is like life is for living. And so go out and do the things, especially when you're young and you have the ability to do so, and everything else will kind of fall into place.
Jazz, I'd like to thank you for being on today's show. You've been an
Mhm.
amazing, awesome guest. I've learned so much about everything from systems to world travel to you are definitely a diverse person one of the most unique individuals we've ever had on the show. I'd like to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this conversation. This hour flew by, so I appreciate you.
So if you guys like what you saw, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and click that notification bell below so you never miss a kerfuffle episode. We're also on Spotify. We're on Amazon. We're on iTunes. We're on Apple iTunes. I'm sorry, not just iTunes anymore. We're also on iHeart. We're also on Rumble. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all other social media platforms, including TikTok. So if you guys like what you heard, make sure to follow along. And until next time, have fun storming the castle.